So today we are going to get into the heart, the center of the Enneagram, types 2, 3, and 4. Just a brief recap. The Enneagram is 9 types, describes 9 energies or 9 motivations. And typically everyone falls into one of those. And the way we're going through this is we're going to talk about them. And over the course of our 6 weeks together, we're going to spend time describing each of the 9 types. And then we're also going to talk about, I don't want you to feel pressure to identify with one of those. Maybe it'll be easy. Maybe you will be like, hey, I got it. I know what my type is. But if you don't, that's also okay. And in that case, then you can just sit with this material. When we get on to session 5, we're going to talk about how we use these typologies to understand our own emotional, spiritual, mental health better, because sometimes we behave differently. Whatever our grounded space is, I'm putting it at the bottom of this pie because I'm a 5. So mine's like down here on an Enneagram chart. And then finally, we're going to wrap it up in session 6, how we move from self awareness to working with our teams and cohorts to be our best. So, with that said, we'll move on and we're going to start with a Slido question. So, the question is at your best at work, what are you most focused on? And so, here's how you join. If you are on your computer, then you can just go in there and you can see slido.com. Don't put a space between the 4 and the 9. If you're on your phone, you can scan that and you can start answering. These are examples. These are not the only things you could be focused on, but at your best at work, what are you most focused on? Finding meaning, doing good work. Finding meaning's really coming up there strong. Good. Good. I'll be right. You keep answering that for just 1 second. I'm trying to find a file for you. Okay. Finding meaning. Good. Good. Um, yeah, doing good work. All right. Yeah, that's excellent. So I want to emphasize a couple of the smaller ones on here for just a second, and that is, and then I want to talk about the big ones. I think we'll ask a version of this question or something similar every week because when you are at your best and you know what you're focused on, that's one of those moments where that may be a clue into what energy you operate from most naturally, what Enneagram space you operate from most naturally. So just kind of pay attention to that. Also, some of these smaller ones here, helping others and being available to my coworkers. I just want to say, if you're one of the people who answered that, that could be something you find in this heart center. It's all about connection. Not that finding meaning and doing good work. Doing good work could be a really 3 energy space, and we'll talk about that when we get to it. Getting it right, yeah, that could really be in the 1 space or in the 3 space. And we'll talk about that because when you're at your best, building relationships, yeah, that's totally something that the heart center really focuses on, and we're going to talk about that in this space. So see if that's something you identify with. Again, I just want to reiterate: if you have questions, if you have anything that pops up, unmute, um, raise your hand, yell out, put it in the chat. I want to make sure we address everything that you have questions about, that we're capable of answering in this time together. Okay, so all of the heart space, one of the things that happens there is that they are all motivated by one central core emotion. And this is the negative version of that emotion, but this is for twos, threes, and fours. They're all coming out of a shame emotion. Now, shame can look a lot different, depending on if it's a two, three, or four. And I don't want you to have some sort of like Game of Thrones, Cersei marching through the street and people yelling shame at her. It doesn't have to be that dramatic. It doesn't have to be this whole like, I feel ashamed, my head is hung down. Shame can be a very subtle emotion. Shame can be about an over concern, or a concern. I don't want to use the word over, a concern about how we appear to others, how others feel about us. I resonate with this some. I'm not in the heart, it's not my deepest center, but I do resonate with a lot of four energy. And so I get that. And one of my favorite quotes is by the author David Foster Wallace, who wrote the book Infinite Jest that everyone says they're going to read or have read and no one has. But uh, most people, how many of y'all love novels with footnotes? Anybody into that? Yeah, well, if you're into it, give Infinite Jest a go. It's fantastic. And if you feel strong about tennis, also. Um, but one of his quotes from one of his essays was, everyone always worries about what other people think about them until they realize that they don't. Because his contention was, everybody's thinking about what other people are thinking about them, which means no one is thinking about other people. He could be a little jaded in his writing. Okay, so what does shame as the driving emotion look like for the heart center? It means they're operating out of some of these core questions. Am I loved? Am I enough? And do I matter? Now, those questions are going to come up differently in twos, threes, and fours. And really, those are the questions for a two, a three, and a four. Am I loved? Am I enough? And do I matter? Yeah, Justine, thanks. Yeah, we were teaching some students about public speaking at Angelo State, and someone said, no one has ever died from public speaking yet. That's how we encouraged them. Yeah, everyone, particularly if you're talking about undergrad students, I tell my teenagers this all the time. There's a phase in life where you are just so concerned about what other people think about you that you can't think about other people. At MSU, they have this great thing called the Lifelong Learning Center, and it's over in the museum. And I was talking to their director of that program the other day, and she made some comment to the effect of, I was talking about in the fall, I'm going to be leading a couple of classes over there, and I was pitching the idea of doing a course on the social impact and history of stand-up comedy, because I love stand-up. And she said, that sounds really engaging. Most of these people are retired, and several of them are in their 80s. And if they're not interested, they'll just leave. So they're at that age where they're not worried what they think about what you think about them. If they don't like what you're doing, they're out. And I appreciate that level of honesty. I'm like, hey, just see you later. That's how that feedback loop's really short. I know you did not enjoy that. Am I loved? Am I enough? Do I matter? Heart centers are really great at reading rooms. They are attuned to emotional undercurrents. So they walk into a room and they feel the energy. And I'll be honest, I'm a head type and I used to poo poo that kind of stuff. I was like, what are you talking about? And the more I know about mirror neurons and the way that things we cannot see actually work, the more attuned I am to the reality that there is energy in a room. You can feel it. You can feel anxiety. You can feel comfort. You can feel security. You can feel emotional waves coming off of another person. And so the twos, threes, and fours are just really, really good at that. Twos, threes, and fours in very different ways are always concerned about their image. And we'll talk about the specifics of those when we get to those numbers. As we talk about the Enneagram, we're going to talk about wounds, right? And again, I think I said this. I apologize. I spoke to y'all last week. We got together, and then the next day, I did a session with student financial aid and scholarships over at TTU. That was like a 3-hour Enneagram session. So if I'm repeating or assuming that we talked about something we didn't talk about, but one of the things Richard Rohr says a lot is that the wound is also the wisdom. And so the wound that is at the core of what drives us, what is our motivation, is also where our deepest contribution to the world comes from. And for twos, threes, and fours, that wound is relational. Some point in the life of a 2, 3, or 4, love felt very conditional, right? It felt like you had to earn it. And so they are always concerned about whether they are giving enough, achieving enough, or being unique enough to earn that love. And let me go back. I don't want to say like people, again, the Enneagram is not a trap. Like if you resonate with a 2 or a 3 or a 4, it's not to say that you're desperately walking around looking for approval. It's just to say that there is some root energy that drives this desire, if it's unexamined, if it's unexplored, to try to earn love. And one of the things I believe is that love doesn't have to be earned. We love people for who they are. And love may be the instrument by which people change and grow, but it's not the condition. It's not something we're asking people to change so that they can be loved. That's not love. That's manipulation. So, any questions or anything on any of that before we kind of roll on? Heart types are trying to earn love. They already have. And the tragedy is really that strategy often leads to getting in the way of receiving the love that's already being offered to them. And we'll talk about that. All right. Jump in if you got questions. Sometimes I can see you on my screen. Sometimes I can't, depending on what's pulled up. So be audible if you need to, or put it in the chat. Otherwise, let's talk about twos. And the way we're going to do this is I'm going to describe the type. We're going to give an animal for each type. We're going to talk about the motivation, kind of the downside, what the gift is. And then I'm going to give you, if we had to pick, I'm going to give you a song and a movie, just as another point of reference for how that might go on. And then I'll also point out some famous people that, again, I think I've told you we shouldn't type other people, but I'm going to give you some famous people that that we think might be in this Enneagram type. So, all right, twos, their type is the helper. The animal most closely associated with them is the golden retriever. Okay, I'm gonna make sure I can see y'all on video so we can see your hands, or you can put it in the chat. Any of y'all dog owners? Any of you ever had a golden retriever? Okay. Any of you ever had a golden retriever that was just so helpful, whether helpfulness was required from a dog or not? Yeah. Let me turn my video off so you can actually see this slide for a second. So, yeah, the thing about golden retrievers is they are some of the most loving dogs on the planet, right? But they have no clue that sometimes their version of love is not needed in a situation. And God forbid that there is a situation that does not require the help of a golden retriever, because that is unfathomable to them. That kind of energy is really driving the twos. It really is. They just want to help, even if no one asked for their help. Here's my favorite story about a two I used to work with. She ran the kitchen in a church I was working at, And one day, ironically, I guess, or serendipitously, I was prepping for an Enneagram weekend retreat with another presenter. And this is someone from outside the church, and they've come into my office, and we're having a meeting. And Jerry was this other woman's name. And Jerry came storming down the hall. I could hear her coming. And she came through the vestibule and she came into my office, didn't knock, door was shut, throws open the door, and she says, "People are dumping coffee grounds down the sink." And I was like, okay, like I don't understand how that affects me. But for her, this was a real condemnation because she was in charge of the kitchen and she had a set of rules that she had established for how we worked corporately in this shared kitchen space. Now, here are the things. When I say she was in charge of the kitchen, no one had ever officially put her in charge of the kitchen, okay? She just invested a lot of time. It was her love language, cooking and taking care of people. Second of all, uh, no one had asked for the rules of community space. Third of all, uh, I was in a meeting. My door was closed. Like, this was not a high energy moment. I was not going to stop that meeting to dig the coffee grounds out of the sink. Fast forward, we do the Enneagram retreat. She is there. We describe the twos. And I don't diagnose her as being a two, but she comes to me later and she says, "I think that's what I am." She says, "Talk to me about it." We talk a little bit. And what I said to her made her so upset about the energy she was bringing that she didn't talk to me for about a month. And then later on, she came back and she said, "You know what? I realized that it really wasn't about the coffee grounds. It was really about I didn't feel respected. And I feel like I was working really hard to help things go well. And I did not get any sort of feedback that was positive for that. And I was really upset about that. And I know now that that's really some misplaced frustration." I said, "Yeah, maybe so." I said, "It's understandable. I appreciate what you do in the kitchen, etc." But this is a woman I watched over the course of a year or two really work with understanding where her motivation was coming from. And suddenly, this energy she had brought in that was so anxious and so angry because she didn't feel appreciated, she was able to channel that differently and communicate differently about it. Most twos have a really easy time feeling martyred. And that's the energy in the space she was in. She felt like she had sacrificed everything and gotten nothing back for it. She felt unwanted, expendable. Here's the great thing about twos, though. If all that's kind of negative energy, it is hard to find people who are more freely giving, that more freely love, particularly when twos get healthy and they understand that they can give that service and that love away, um, and they don't have to do it to get feedback or to get a positive response. They can do it because they authentically care about people. That's where the two is coming from. Uh, when I was talking about this over at TTU last week, during a break, it was very funny because this woman came up to me and she was like, "I'm really angry at you because you just described a conversation I had with a coworker, and it was literally about the kitchen space in our office suite. And that story I just told you, I had told them." And she said, "That literally happened because people were not washing their coffee cups out." And she said, "I know I'm a two. I know that's the energy I'm coming from." It's funny when we hear these stories that we resonate with them, that there is this kind of ring inside of us. We go, "Hey, that really is something that happens in my life." So again, for the two, man, the gift is, really, they create cultures of care. They are the relational glue in a lot of organizations. They make sure that everyone is cared for and taken care of. The downside is that not only can they have a real feeling of being a martyr, but because they are trying to take care of people, they also struggle to hold people accountable in a healthy way. Now, they can get angry and they can be frustrated, but they are not going to have these kind of honest, kind conversations with people about, hey, I think you need to do this differently because it feels like they're withholding love. Um, for twos, just to let them know that they're valued, regardless of how useful they are, is the best way to help them move into spaces of health. Uh, Anybody got any questions about that? Anybody got any questions about our twos? Thoughts? Anybody want to volunteer and say that anything we just talked about resonates with you, that you feel like, hey, that's really kind of describing energy I feel on occasion? Yes, Justine. Good. Yeah. Let me be clear. You don't have to be a two to be a helpful person, but it's a different approach to helpfulness. Yeah, it's a different approach for sure. Okay. Well, we're going to go into another Slido kind of between. Yeah. Okay. Elizabeth, thanks. Yeah, I feel that. But you understand now. Good. Again, the Enneagram is really a tool of self awareness. And as we grow in self awareness, we become better leaders, better teammates, better friends, better parents, better partners, because we not only become more self aware, but then we also are capable of offering more compassion when we understand what might be the motivations of the people around us. All right, let's go on to another Slido. And here's the question: do you know how to ask for help, or does it feel like giving something up? And so your choices here are: I have no problem asking for help, easy peasy, give me a hand. Middle ground is I can do it, but it hurts. And finally, it is if I'm being honest, I'd rather sink alone than have someone save me. Depends on who it is. Yeah, good, Shelby. I want to figure it out myself, but I'm getting better at asking for help. Good, good. Okay. Uh, yeah, we asked that question right now because, oh, you know what? I'm so sorry. I'm gonna come back to that. We asked that question now because that's really going to be into the three space. The three is the achiever. Before that, let me go back. I told you I was going to give you some a movie and some examples for the twos. So the song cue, the song that really resonates with our twos uh, is "Lean on Me" by Bill Withers. You know, lean on me when I'm not strong, when you're not strong. Like they just really want to be helpful. And the movie is Still Magnolias. Still Magnolias, all about love through constant presence, constant giving, constant knowing what everyone needs before they ask. So that's our two things there. Um, okay. So threes are our achievers, and they really like to be seen as right. They like to not just right, but as the one doing the best. They are the people who come into the room as students in your class, or if you're dealing with students, they're always like the first hand up, right? Like, I got it, I got it, I got it. They want to, I don't know what my daughter is in a number, but I can tell you we call her a grade grabber because when she was in high school, whereas my son would be happy if he just got a 90 something, if she got a 97, she is standing with the teacher saying, hey, let's talk about where those 3 points were. because she wants to achieve. And if 100 is perfect achievement, then we need to talk about what went wrong, more than we can focus on the success of the 97% right. Their real drive is, I'm going to figure out what success looks like in any given situation, and I will not do that. That's an intentional word there. I will become that. They want to excel. They want to be admired. The downside to that is that they often become image obsessed. They can be workaholics. They're emotionally disconnected. And the reason I asked that question about asking for help is a 3 will rarely ask for help because they need to be the one to accomplish things. Now, there's a lot of reasons people do and do not ask for help. Some of that's trust, some of that's past experiences. But for a 3, it's because to ask for help would be to admit weakness, and that would be like failing. And so we can't fail. We have to figure it out on our own. What do you think? You can answer this in the chat. What do you think the downside of being image obsessed might be? Or maybe ask it a different way. Have you ever worked for someone that you felt like was image obsessed? And what's the problem? What's the downside to that? Yeah, you try to be perfect. No one's perfect. All hat, no cattle. Yes. It can be overwhelming to work with this person. I can't meet them at their standards. Perfectionism. Yes, and it just causes you more stress. Yes. Tanya Tucker Easterwood, right on it. Um, yeah, that's right. I think those are all true. Again, one of the things when we talk about our wounds and our shadows, I really believe that the pain that we do not transform inside of ourselves, we transfer to those we care about. I watch it happen all the time in my own life. My car was dead this morning because I had left the headlights on because I'm driving something else that's not mine that don't turn off automatically. I was really frustrated and I took it out on my son. My son did not turn those headlights on, but I wasn't dealing with my own self well. And so when he asked me a question, I was like, no, I was transferring that pain. For a 3, that obsession with image, that perfectionism. A lot of you are talking about this idea here that pain of working with a 3 or working for a 3 is if they're not healthy and they're so obsessed with this concept, this unobtainable concept of perfectionism, then they are holding everyone else to that unattainable standard. And that can be so stressful and so hard to deal with. Leanne, I think that's right. No vulnerability. Being honest about our failures is the easiest way to actually connect with people. Being unrealistic about who we are is the easiest way to push people away. As Joseph said up earlier, all hat, no cattle. Yeah, I mean, image, there's nothing wrong with being aware of your image, but if the only thing that you're obsessed with is image, it can have no connection to reality. Now, here's the thing. The real gift of the 3 is that when they're able to understand that motivation, when they're able to understand that, oh man, gosh, I've been so obsessed with image and that's not right, they're able to align, right? They're able to say, okay, being professional and presentable and having high standards is okay, but let's start bringing reality into that conversation. And now we don't have to be fake, as Justine points out. We can be real. So we get really honest about where we failed because that failure becomes a teaching point to actually get better, not just to look better. And I think that can be such a powerful space for 3s. They do make really great authentic leaders because they stop worrying about impressing and they're able to shift into a space where they can focus on what really, really matters. Movie for a three. And again, this is not necessarily saying healthy, but the movie recommendation for a three would be The Devil Wears Prada. I haven't seen the sequel. I can't comment on that, but just a real obsession with how do things appear. And then Eye of the Tiger is a great song for threes. It's just pure energy. Um, Eye of the Tiger, thrill of the fight. Just I'm going to achieve and I'm going to crush it. That's really where they go. So the gift of the threes is that they can really get things done. And when a three is healthy, it's not fake and it's not driving people away from them. It's inspirational. Uh, Again, that shadow is the prioritization of image over truth. They're soft sellers. They don't tell you the truth. They'll spin bad news. Uh, I think every organization needs this, but really, threes need to understand that failure is a part of success. It's not only survivable, but we work in organizations that we can fail forward. So if you are working for a three, it's kind of hard to do that from beneath. If you're working with threes, you can do something really silly and be like, let's have a day where we celebrate our failures. Because failure is just another point of understanding what doesn't work, which is a process of elimination. Because now we might be able to get more into what does work. All right. Uh, any other questions for or thoughts about the threes? This is a type three question. I just want you to think about it for a second. It kind of blends into type four. So, when did you last do something that had no audience? Because for threes and fours in different ways, and twos, for a lot of the heart center, it's all about others. It's about the audience. For threes, it's about achievements. For four, it's about uniqueness. But can you remember something you've done recently that had no audience? Anybody like to sing in the shower? Yeah. Well, I mean, if you finished your book, Claudia, I just want to be clear, writing one or reading one, both could have no audience. I'm going to say finished my book kind of sounds like, oh, reading it. Okay. Hey, you know what? That's great. Yeah, I do enjoy doing stuff. I'm a car singer. Yeah, there's a show every morning on the way to work. Excellent. I hope there is a photographer in Lubbock named Mark Umstadt, who is also a musician, and I was talking to him, and he is a harmonica player, and he taught me that he carries harmonicas in his pocket all the time because it's an instrument you don't have to. And so he plays harmonica in his car on the way to work. And I got really excited about what that must look like to people who pull up beside him just to see a dude playing harmonica in his car next to him. Yeah, car singers, stuff that doesn't require an audience. If you really don't care if anybody sees what you're doing, you may not live in that heart space. We may yet not have got some combination of those words. We ain't got to your number yet, perhaps, is what I'm saying. Uh, I forced my kids to participate. Full concerts with the windows down. Yeah, no, that's awesome. No, we haven't. Good. Yeah, it's cool. Process of elimination. Okay, let's talk about fours for a second. Let's make sure we get through all of our numbers today. Four, your animal's the black swan, right? It's the unique. I need it's this very unique space. I need what I feel to be seen, not managed or fixed. I'm going to tell you a person. I realize I haven't given you the people. If we have time, I'll go back and give you the people for everybody. But this is a really easy one. Early in her career, Lady Gaga was like the energy she was putting out, straight up stereotypical for. She wore a dress made of meat to an event one time. And that's just one of those things where this real emphasis on being unique. Don't manage me. Don't. I'm in my feelings. I want you to know my feelings. Four are your theater kids. Okay, they're your artists, and they just want their identity to be expressed. They need authenticity. The downside of that is they can also be your most maudlin. Depression can come really easily to fours. Um, Later in all this, we'll talk about wings in the Enneagram, where you're going to know kind of what your number is, but you're going to also really identify with one of the numbers on the side. I know my wing is a four. I was a theater kid. And I know that like the dark feelings are easier for me. Like it's it's easy to get into a depressive space. It's easy to feel withdrawn. I love this phrase, fours tend to romanticize suffering. Um, Sometimes they don't even want it to get better because then what would they feel sad about? That's okay because they also, these theater kids, and they really are our artists in the world. They are so capable of transforming pain into beauty, into things that matter and mean. Um, I told you last time we were listening to this Punch Brothers song as we started, and the song's Another New World, and it is a bummer of a song, and it is all about pain, and it is all about, and to me, it's one of the most beautiful songs because it's about this dude who loves his boat so much that it breaks his heart to chop it up to stay alive in the ice cap. And it's just, there's such a pure expression of this like melancholy and sorrow that it is beautiful because it is painful. That is straight for energy. That's where they come from. Their biggest fear is that they won't matter, that they won't be significant. So, the gift they bring is that they are authentic, emotional honesty. They can just name feelings and they refuse to pretend. Uh, the shadow is that it can be really self focused. You want to love them well, you got to like recognize them. It doesn't mean you have to agree that like everything is ruined, but you just give them permission to feel, acknowledge it, and then lead from a different space. I love fours. They're just very dramatic, and I feel that energy a lot of times. Uh, yeah. Though I'm going to go back to something Justine said a minute ago. I don't want you to have an audience, but at some point, you should probably record you and your kids in the car. That would be really great. I don't know how old your kids are, but if you force them to participate and then they get older and they're being brats, now you have ammo. You'd be
Yes,
like, oh
I
yeah,
agree with you.
exactly.
Yeah, she should definitely.
Yeah. Now you got it. You're like, hey, I don't like the way you're talking to me. Let's pull out some old videos from the car. Okay. As leaders, and again, when we say leaders, we don't mean that you have to have the right title. We just mean that you are someone, 6-year-old twins. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I love that energy. So, what do heart types need from leadership? And again, leaders don't have to be the person with the title. Anyone from anywhere can lead within an organization. It's about the energy you bring. Twos need to be valued beyond usefulness, care about them, try to help them not overcommit, try not to help them become resentful, try to value them regardless of what they're doing. Type threes, appreciate the person, have clear goals, and don't worry just about the output. Watch them and help them not soft sell failures. Um, Fours, take them seriously, even if to you, depending on your type, it might seem overly dramatic. Take them seriously. Um, Try to make sure they're not withdrawing. All right, another little question here on Slido. If you imagine people that you know, and we're not typing people, but the people you work with, the people you know, that might fall into the three categories we've discussed today, I want to know for you, which of these three types do you find easiest to work with? Helpers, achievers, or individualists? It's going to take a couple of minutes here. Yeah. Achievers. Yeah. Okay. Good. Good. All right. Then the secondary question to that is, which type do you find the hardest to work with? Ah, Joseph. Yeah, that's a great question. Are there generational differences within the types? Yes. Yeah, for sure. Um, but I would like to do a little bit more thinking about that before we talk about what that means. One of the things I really enjoy about the Enneagram is it really does describe root motivations, but that can look different based on generation. And it can also look different based on a lot of other things. I mean, uh, but I think the intersection of generational kind of makeup and type would be really an interesting. The answer is yes. Just my gut says, yeah, there has to be, there is. But how that looks, that's a fantastic question. I'm going to do a little bit of thinking and research on that, and I want to make sure we address it somewhere in these 6 weeks because it is. I think that's an important question. So I'll make a note. Um, and see if I can't come up with a more coherent answer to that. All right, here's the deep truth. Heart types are not wrong to want love. They are wrong to think they must earn it. Okay. Shannon, good question. Do I feel like people's numbers change over time? Qualified, no. Uh, Sometimes people take surveys and they come up with one number. I'll just use myself as an example. When I took a survey, I came up with one number. The more I got into the Enneagram and studied it kind of the way we're studying it now, which is descriptions of the numbers and self-identification and resonance. Once I really landed on what my true energy was, it has never changed. And that was about 14, 15 years ago that I identified with that. Most people who practice the Enneagram would say that they do not change. There's a caveat, which is why it's a qualified no. Some of the teachers of the Enneagram, and this may not apply to some of you, I don't know how old you are, would basically say that you cannot accurately, and I'm not telling you to this if you don't fall in this category, but one of the things I've found fairly true, and this is what they are pretty adamant about, is that it's very hard for young people, uh, wealthy people, and overly attractive people to clearly identify their Enneagram number. And the reason they say that is that because to fully identify the Enneagram number is to be very in touch with suffering. And if you are too young, too pretty, or too rich, you probably have not suffered enough to identify kind of this resonance that comes with that. I also believe that love and suffering are really tied together. And so uh, I know people in their late teens and early 20s who've had very hard lives, and they could identify their Enneagram number pretty easily. I know others that are in their 60s and 70s and would have a hard time identifying it. So, really long answer to your question. I think once you really figure it out, it doesn't change. I think it's really embedded in you. But I would be happy to talk about that further. I know we're kind of out of time. Okay. As you go on this week, I want you to notice how you are managing how you're perceived, particularly if you've identified with one of these numbers in here, 2, 3, or 4, this is really a question for you. And if not, then maybe we're going to get to you next time, which will be, I think, therefore I am, types 5, 6, and 7. If you have a chance, please take this survey. I am putting the link to it in the chat. It's very quick. It really helps us improve. And it does have space in there for any questions you might have that you want me to get into in our time together. I am so thankful for your time, for your honesty, for your feedback, not only on the survey, but in the session. Again, the Enneagram has been really meaningful to me. I hope it is something, thanks, Shelby. If I hope it's something that as we spend our time together, it helps you grow as a person and helps you work better with your teams. Any last questions? Oh, movie and song for four. Golly. Thank you. Oh, yeah, this is a great movie. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I ran into this the other day. You may not have seen any of these movies, and if you haven't, then you should just let me know. I'll find some new movies. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is a real bummer of a movie. It's very melancholy. I love that movie. That's the four movie. And then also very strong. Yeah, Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet is that movie. And then the song is "Creep" by the band Radiohead. That's the perfect four energy for a song. It talks, I mean, just even the musicality of it. It's like very soft, then very loud, very dramatic in its musicality. And then it is also just about being a creep. I'm a creep. I'm a weirdo. What the hell am I doing here? I don't belong here. Uh, that song really resonates to me with four energy. Thank you. Uh, the heart. What song and movie? Twos were let's see, "Lean on Me" by Bill Withers and "Still Magnolias." Threes are "Devil Wears Prada," "Eye of the Tiger," and fours are "Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind" and "Creep" by Radiohead. I will, before I send you, oh, animals, yeah. Well, I'll send them all out, but let's see. Fours are black swans, threes are falcons, and twos are golden retrievers for animals. You will get a handout. You'll get a recording of this and a handout from me later today, maybe early tomorrow. And I will try to remember to change the handout to make sure I put a few examples of people who at least present that energy. Yeah, is there a place you can take the Enneagram? Yes, there are places, and I can recommend some of them. But Shannon, in general, I think the best way to clearly identify your Enneagram energy is not by taking a survey or a quiz, but by hearing all nine types described and whatever resonates with you, like it will feel, you'll be like, "Oh my gosh, you don't know me. How could you be describing what drives me?" I think that is the best way to accurately identify your root Enneagram number. But I will be happy to point out some places if you feel like you would like to take a survey. I can recommend some of those. I don't think it's the most helpful, but everybody has a place to begin. So I'll try to find one that I think is maybe better than others. All right, any more questions? Sorry we ran a little over. If you had to leave, I totally understand. There's my contact info. You got other questions, shoot me an email. Yeah, good. Claudia, awesome. Enneagram Institute, I think, is Riso Hudson. That's fantastic. Good. So see that link in there. And if you don't mind, Claudia, I'll just copy that and send it out. Thank you all very much. We will see you same time next week when we get into those of us who are head cases. Thanks for being here.